Morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar today, Benefits of Using SIS and ICH. In today's webinar, before we go to the agenda, a few legal IATA reminders. Participants are reminded that live streaming of this webinar to parties not in attendance is not permitted, except as indicated by and with the express permission and knowledge of IATA. Unauthorized recording of the meeting is also prohibited. IATA will record the webinar and share the link afterwards to the members of this group, and it will be posted on the website. In today's webinar, we have presenters Nicola Polk, Airport Cost Controlling Specialist at Lufthansa Group Business Services, Simon Bloom, Corporate Accounts Payable Manager at LATAM, and Bruno Roussel from SIS Product Management from IATA. Now, in today's agenda, we will cover embracing digitalization, Nicola from Lufthansa. What is digitalization? Digitalization at the airport, digitalization in invoice airport cost controlling. And we will move to smarter invoice payments in ICH. Simon will cover this part with automated reconciliation, validation, and dispute process. And then we will have some complementary points by Bruno. Remember to add your questions to the question box during the webinar, and we will respond them to the end of this session. Thank you very much, and I will leave it now to Nicola to start the presentation.
Thank you, Nina. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining today's session. This is Nicola Polk from Lufthansa Group Business Services, and I'm working as an airport cost controlling specialist. So today I'll share some experience with you about digitalization in cost controlling and how is it reshaping both passenger experience and airline processes with a special focus on Lufthansa and IATA SIS. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay. Okay, so let's explain the main concept of digitalization. It refers to the integration of digital technologies into everyday operations, fundamentally changing how organizations operate and deliver value to customers. It's not just about converting analog information into digital form. It's about leveraging digital technologies to enhance processes, improve efficiency, and create new business models. Airports worldwide are embracing digitalization to meet the evolving demands of passengers and to improve operational efficiency. This includes automation of processes, some biometric technologies like facial recognition for security checks, real-time managing of security checks, etc., etc. I think it is worth to mention that these advancements not only improve the passenger experience, but also enable airports to handle increasing traffic without proportionally increasing resources. From a financial perspective, digitalization plays a crucial role in cost controlling. All digital tools enable airlines to operate better and better. Okay, so let's start with passenger perceptions. Digitalization at airports are increasingly positive, with growing preference for technology-driven solutions that enhance convenience, efficiency, and control throughout the travel experience. Here you can see the main highlights from IATA's Global Passenger Survey 2024. And it says 89% of passengers would join a trusted travel program for faster security. 73% want to use biometric data instead of paper passports. 71% of passengers book their flight online or via application. Okay, let's now take a moment to explore an impactful example of digitalization. the real-time information system available through the Lufthansa app, just an example. For many passengers, one of the biggest stress factors at the airports is uncertainty. If I'm on a right gate, will my flight be delayed? Where's my baggage, right? First and foremost, the app provides live flight status updates. From departure times to last-minute gate changes, passengers receive the information directly to their phone. Another feature is push-up notifications. Whether it's a change in a boarding time or the early gate closure, the app sends instant alerts, allowing passengers to react quickly and confidently. Next is real-time baggage tracking. Passengers can follow the journey of their checked bag from drop-off to pick-up. This increases trust in the airline service and reduces the need to stand around uncertain at the baggage claim. And finally, the digital boarding pass. After check-in, the boarding pass is stored directly in an app or digital wallet. This eliminates the need for printed documents, reduces queuing time at check-in counters, and simplifies the entire airport journey. Okay, now let's take a closer look at another digital tool, interactive airport maps. Because airports today are no longer just transit points, there are complex ecosystems with multiple terminals, dozens of gates, countless service points, shops, lounges, etc. It's easy for passengers to feel overwhelmed, especially in unfamiliar or large hub airports like Frankfurt and Munich. So here we have an interactive airport map. Step walking directions. The system calculates the estimated walking time, taking into account terminal layouts, escalators, and train, for example. This is especially valuable for travelers with tight connections, limited mobility, or simply those who want to make the most of their time at the airport without stress. Do you hear me correctly?
Yes, we do, Nicola. You can continue.
Okay, thank you. So now in case of a flight irregularity lasting beyond a certain period of time and the destination distance, passengers are entitled to receive a meal voucher. And here on your left side, you can see a standard meal voucher. But at some airports where the solution is supported, now the iCoupons are also available. iCoupon replace traditional paper meal vouchers and it contains digital QR code. This is delivered directly to passengers' mobile devices or printed on boarding passes when passengers are not able to receive it on their phone. With iCoupon, there is no longer need to worry about losing a paper slip. The QR code is sent automatically and fully digital. It can be scanned at participating retailers and food outlets across the airport, just like a regular payment method. As the benefits from airline side, it's the fact that iCoupon provides real-time reporting, and this level of control was never possible with traditional paper vouchers. The QR code is scanned in a restaurant or shop, data is transferred directly into the system, then suppliers send an automatically issued invoice, and if everything is in line, the invoice is auto-approved and paid. As the cost controllers, we have access to the voucher database and can check whether the passenger used the full voucher amount or not. And in the end, we only pay for the amount actually used by the passenger and not the full value of the voucher. Okay, and now we smoothly move to our next topic. How are the charges verified by invoice controllers while the service are delivered? Is the role of invoice controllers to make sure we're only paying for what was actually done. Yeah, no more, no less. And this step is essential not only for budget accuracy, but also for building accountability and transparency across departments. And at its core, my role is about making sure every euro spent is justified, accurate, and aligned with operational needs. Airports are a complex ecosystem involving multiple service providers, fluctuating passenger volumes, and unexpected disruptions. And I monitor and analyze cost-related data, verify vendor charges, match invoices with service records, and ensure that we're not overpaying or paying for services that weren't delivered. So why does it matter? In other words, cost control isn't just about saving money, it's about creating value and stability in an environment that never stands still. Okay, so where is the digitalization in it? Let me show you an example of IATA SIS invoice. Here for passenger service charge, a fully digital standardized invoice issued and processed through the SIS platform. And thanks to IATA SIS, we can manage our cost-related invoices in a much more structured and transparent way. It reduces manual errors, shortens processing time, and ensures that all charges are backed by valid documentation, which is crucial from a cost control perspective. Unlike traditional paper invoices, which can be manipulated, lost, or submitted multiple times, SIS invoices go through a secure digital process with a strict formatting, validation checks, and traceability. Each invoice is uniquely identified and supported by structured data and attachments, making it very difficult to fake or duplicate. However, the quality of the data entered into the system is still very important. We can immediately trace every line of cost back to a specific service data and provider, while the input is in line with the quality requirements. In other case, any discrepancies make the attachment the only element that can clarify the subject of the document. This is a huge step forward compared to the old paper-based system, where invoice quality varied, backup documentation was sometimes missing, and manual errors or even international mischarges were harder to detect. And here you can see a supplementary attachment to the invoice we have already seen, and it provides essential data such as the type of service, the flight number, aircraft registration, and aircraft type. Additionally, it includes the number of passengers, indicating how many times the passenger charge was applied. Furthermore, it contains information about the hub and aircraft destination, a unit price, and the total charge for a specific turnaround. This comprehensive breakdown facilitates a clear understanding of charges, ensuring transparency and aiding in accurate financial reconciliation. In case of any price discrepancy, I also use the airport charge platform online database when we can quickly access official price list for airport services worldwide, including landing fees, parking, and passenger-related charges, and so on. Airport charges provide up-to-date official price list for thousands of airports worldwide in just one place. Yeah, I can switch the airport, for example, from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris to John Paul II International Airport in Krakow simply by entering the airport code. By cross-checking bill charges against published rates, we can more easily spot inconsistencies, prevent overbilling, and reduce the risk of financial discrepancies. And in addition to platforms like airport charges, we also rely on digital contracts to verify the prices we're being charged by suppliers and service providers. These contracts are signed individually with each airline and take some time from preparing to signing. So when the time is crucial, the electronic signatures and SharePoints are essential for provide payment on time for our suppliers' invoices. Okay, so that's all from my side. Thank you very much, and I hope you had a great time and learning something new. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Nicola. So we will leave it now to Simon Bloom. Simon, you can start on your side. Simon, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, now can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Amazing presentation, Nicola. And I will talk about smarter invoice payment in ICH. Let's begin with a quick review. Uh, our primary objective in adopting a smarter invoice payment is to improve accuracy, increase efficiency, and strengthen financial controls. We accomplish this by leveraging capabilities of the IATA settlement systems, particularly through the use of structured formats and automation. Okay. This initiative includes several key components: the reconciliation of payables through structured forms like F1 and F3, and also the invoices per se, as Nicola showed us before. And this allow us to have a standardized and traceable process, and also a dispute process with continuous monitoring and alerts, and the use of, and the possibility to use dashboards to better treasury and compliance visibility. Okay. Now let's dive into reconciliation, which is the backbone of smart invoice payments. From one side, we have the F1 that provide us invoice level detail information organized invoice by invoice. And in the other side, we have F3 that summarize the overall balance with each partner. With both of these reports, we could automate reconciliation by aligning the invoice data from F1 with the total balance counterpart in F3. This allows us to avoid manual ledger comparison and spreadsheets checks, and the structured forms allow us to integrate with our ERP systems for seamless real-time processing. And this, at the end, allow us to have a period-to-period consistency by matching invoices with our netting cycles. Sorry. Here we can see an example. Here we can see an example of an F1 report when you can see that for each invoice that we received from our partners, we have the whole details, and this could be complemented with another reports provided by SIS and the ICH, like the charge code report that has even more detail. You can see all billing categories in these reports and are available after the period ends. From the other side, the F3 report show you the net position with each of the partner, as I said before, and the debits are separated by billing category. So it's really easy to see if you have a deviation from what you expected to be billed, or if someone is billing you a billing category that you don't that shouldn't be billed to you. Validation and dispute process. Ensuring that invoices are validated before payment, it's very important, reduce errors and enforce compliance. In the clearinghouse process, we are used to do this after the payment, and it's something that we are gonna get deeper in a little while. But we also have now a new feature that is the change from SMI B to I. Every clearinghouse member and SIS user have the ability now to use this new feature that enables you to pay bilateral invoices through the clearinghouse. I'm going to show you how this works in the next slides, and for us have been a game changer and something that we are exploiting to get more value from SIS and ICH. And in a normal SMII process, we can validate invoices after the period is closed, and we have a structured dispute mechanism that uses predefined reasons and codes and have established SLAs. The system is based on a workflow to improve resolution and time accountability, and creates auditable records of all disputes and internal and external review. This is how the new feature SMI B2I works. First, the billing member send a miscellaneous. This feature is only active to miscellaneous category for now, and the billing member sends a miscellaneous SMI B invoice through SIS. The invoice is sent to the billing member, and at this point, the clearinghouse is not aware that the invoice is here, because as a bilateral invoice is not predefined to be settled through the clearinghouse. But then the billing member can review the invoice, and if it's okay, he can decide to settle it through the clearinghouse. If he does it, it sends a message to SIS to be settled in a particular period. This last point is very important because allow us as a billet member to respect the payment terms that we have with each of our partners, and let us select a settlement period from now to 12 months in the future. And as a last point, when that particular period is active, the invoice will be settled through the clearinghouse as any SMI invoice would be settled. This new feature could be a game changer, and there are a lot of possibilities and new joiners that could generate value with this new tool that ICH and SIS are putting for the community. In a classic dispute process, we could see that for any invoice that's billed to us that we realize that has any issue, could be a quality issue or an amount issue or a complete improper billing, the process is insist to select the original invoice, create a dispute header, add or edit dispute items. You can dispute an invoice partially or just a part of the amount. So this part is very important. You can add attachments. This is totally optional, but it's great for the billet member to have the documentation why it's been a dispute, and you send the dispute. And as you can see in the below part of the image, this has a complete dispute audit trail published in SIS that you can access to each dispute made by any partner. That's all I got for you. I hope it was a good information.
Thank you, Simon. And now I will leave it to my colleague Bruno to guide you through other considerations of this webinar.
Hello, everyone. So you see that everything we have so far is things of world of optimization. We try to optimize process. Is a world of digitalization. We want to improve process. We want to do things that are more efficient, that are more transparent, that are more real time, more predictable, and that are more secure. The idea is to do everything automatically when it's possible. Moving the slide. Oh, sorry, I did it too fast. Okay, sorry. So the idea is to get the system using SIS and ICH in a way that there is no effort from the airline from a data processing point of view, and there is opportunity at any stage to automate the process. So if you're spending, each time I discuss with an airline or with a supplier and we discuss how they use the system, depending on the time they spend on some activity, we realize that there are things that could be automated. So really, this is a learning experience for us to say, like, we need more to communicate about it. So a lot of processes are really digital when you think about passenger or cargo, because they use historically IDEC file and they are familiar with that. But when you move to miscellaneous, a lot of process remain manual. So the idea is to say we have this INET connectivity that is pushing file to everyone and is part of so there is no cost to use that process. So there is an automatic process that could push you file that you don't need to connect to the system to download any invoice, to do any manual activity. So that means that you have really the capability to do things in a manner that is very efficient because you're not spending time to move data or to consume data. Everything is automated when it's possible. So if you didn't do that, a full automation with the system, you should consider it. Another aspect that I was going to show is like the processing dashboard that is giving a view, an helicopter view of what is the status of any invoice. You have already a complete understanding. So it's like a cockpit for you to automate all your process or to do some checks. You can also, from here, you can do some download, you can do some reconciliation. So you don't need to go to the transactional level. But if there is a discrepancy, then you go to the transaction level. But the idea is to, because everything is digital, you can do things in a more automated manner. There is also, you know, when you use SIS, there is an interest aspect is the fact that everything is added together. So when you do send transaction to SIS, we are checking that the sum of the detail equals the total, that the airport codes exist. But not only that, we are also checking that the clearinghouse accept the invoice. And if it goes for e-reporting or e-taxation, we also check that. So that means that the process is end-to-end. You don't have like an invoice that is issued on your end that is not accepted by the government or not accepted by the clearinghouse. So it's something that is very strong in that aspect. There is also the capability to integrate with multiple systems. And airlines have many systems depending on which part of the operation they are. For engineering, they have one system. For fuel, they have another system. So everything is capable to be integrated with this. So it's really a gateway for airline to consider to receive electronic data in a way that is digital. And it could be that the supplier is manually capturing the invoice or using Excel to XML conversion. At the end, as an airline, you don't care much what is the source of the data, how it was transmitted, but everything is digital and is unified in terms of standard. So you can do things more efficiently. So any integration you do, some people were questioning, should I do integration with this? You have a return of investment because you, as an airline, you may use SIS for the next 50 years or maybe 100 years. So that means that there is a return of investment of doing more integration with the system. So one of the reports that people don't use is usually the validation report that are provided each time you send a file to the system. There is another file that's sent back to you. So instead of looking at the processing dashboard, you can integrate that with your ERP, and you can mark in your system that the invoice was received by the platform, was accepted by the platform, and will be delivered to the party. A second aspect is everything related to the reconciliation. So on the weekly basis, SIS is producing a file that is called the process invoice file that is giving you all the invoice that was transmitted on that period. So that means that you can build also automatically a logic instead of going to the processing dashboard and looking at the transaction. You can build a logic with that file to reconcile that you have transmitted 300 invoices, that 300 invoices were processed, and you see their status. So it's very powerful for anyone that want to reconcile, especially if you have different source of systems that are sending invoice to the system, and you want to make sure that everything is complete. For the, I mentioned the e-reporting, so it's also one of the benefits of the system is through the same platform you can do e-reporting and e-invoicing anywhere in the world. So we are not compliant everywhere, but we are looking at being more and more compliant. And this is really a benefit for the people because you have a traceability of what is happening up to the delivery to the partner. So it's very important when you have country where payment terms are starting when the invoice is considered as received by the billed party. And more, and we see that in many legislation now, there is an emphasis about payment information. So to make sure that not only the invoice is transmitted, but when the invoice was paid. It could be for tax reason, or it could be also to protect small enterprise from big companies to avoid them to delay payment. And you can, because you get a lot of data through the integration with SIS, with XML, you can get a lot of information that allow you to do some cost accounting. So you can allocate an invoice to a cost center. So it could be based on who is the billing entity. It could be built on the type of invoice, the location, and some other information that you could have, like a charge code or product ID, or even the service description. So the idea is to say the first level is to record the information in URP. The second level is to ventilate the cost to the right cost center. And the last step is to do a cost control with the detailed information. So SIS has a lot of capability. Sometimes it's a bit complex to understand all the capability, but there is always ways in the system to define a process. And we have something called location ID that is helping people to use the system for different reasons. It could be that they want to have a different output because they have a different address. So it could be, you could also use a location ID without defining a different data feed, meaning still using the same one data feed for the head office, but it could contain different address. It could be also linked to a specific recipient. So when you want to create a location ID that is specific to an airport, and then the station manager will get access only to those invoices, they will get an email alert. So it could be specific to a recipient. It could be segregated, because we have a lot of cases like this when airline implement cost control. They have, everyone has a different scope. So some airlines do airport, ATC, some people go to ground handling, some people go to fuel. So everyone is, even if we call it direct operating costs, this notion is very specific to each airline. So here again, it's a way for you to define data feed that are pure to the system they are loaded. That means that if you have a cost control system where the scope of direct operating cost is airport and ATC, but you can set up a location ID at the head office where anything related to airport or ATC will produce a separate file, and this file can be pushed to this location that will be the cost control. It can be also done because you want to segregate by the nature of the charge. So it could be a fuel because you have a fuel system, or because you have a fuel team. And the last aspect, it could be that you do that because you want to segregate because you have different systems. And it could be a mix of that. So you could have different address and different systems. So, and there is no limitation of the number of location ID you can create in the system. So really, it's a help for the airline to implement change and to implement the rollout, because more and more we are implementing new supplier at the station, and each station should be created as a fiscal address, for example, but also because the station manager want to get an alert when there is an invoice available for them. There is also this capacity to use a CSV file. So the CSV file is a view of the XML file, but in an Excel format. And what is interesting in that is if you don't have like a strong system to process XML and you still want to do some manual checks or some macro using that file. So it's a feature that is available in SIS. You just need to activate that. It's free to use and there is no cost to do that. And the other aspect is you can also use that as an entry point for your dispute process, because you see here, starting from column Q, there is data element that you can use to do a dispute. So when you have a dispute, an invoice, and you want to dispute, let's say, 20 details, if you use this file and you just input the correct error code and the correct dispute code and some information, and this CSV file you load back to SIS, SIS will create automatically the dispute based on that. So it's quite a very powerful tool that people don't know. So it's again, it's an opportunity for you to automate the dispute process. If you have a cost control system, the cost control system could generate that file, or if you do that manually, you could use that file for you to do the dispute. So there is also this about payment. There is also this capability in SIS to provide information about payment status. We see that everything is related to transparency, automation. very often people are sending remittance advice that could be in different format, in different timeline. So in SIS, when you receive a bilateral invoice for the airline, there is a capability to share with the supplier that I will pay with that wire transfer, that amount, this invoice fully, this invoice partially. So there is a kind of, it's the next level of integration between ERP of the airline and ERP of the supplier. Because as a supplier, I want to make sure that the invoice was received by the airline. I want to make sure it was validated or is it disputed? And then the ultimate goal is to get payment. So, and everything we do in SIS is somehow is much better than the statement of account, because you can give for each level of each invoice, at the invoice level, you can provide information about was this invoice paid or this invoice was not paid. Because the statement of account is just giving an open book saying this amount is remaining paid. But sometimes when we receive payment for some ATC fee, for example, we may allocate this revenue to older invoice where the airline, in fact, was only paying for recent invoice. So it's very key that when you think about automation, going to that level of integration with the system is very powerful, because it gives visibility to the supplier of when the invoice will be paid or when it was paid. So that means it's helping them for the reconciliation that when Simon was explaining with the F1 and F3 is exactly what we want to do with the process. We have also all the alerts that SIS is providing on the advice message. So a lot of message that you can configure in the system to allow you to work efficiently. The idea is to get only message that is you need to do an action with, and everything else should be an automatic process where you process automatically. Simon was showing the Form 1 and Form 3 in PDF format, but there is also an Excel version and there is also an XML version of it. So that means that using that version of the XML, you could imagine that you can close your books for account payable and receivable through the clearinghouse automatically, which sometimes is not an automatic process, that is a manual process. Another aspect, and it was thanks to Travis that did this presentation last year at WFS. The compliance aspect is also another aspect that is very important for us, to make sure that when you do payments, that you are using the compliant process and that the bank account is according to the contract. So when you pay to the clearinghouse, you save all this burden, and you can automate the process because is de facto embedded into the clearinghouse process. So you're still matching your requirement internally, but at the same time, you do that without doing any effort. So it's part of the process optimization when you use the system. This one, I think Simon explained quite clearly. His idea is to say when you get all the details in an electronic format, you can consume the data and you can do things more automatically. So in terms of cash flow optimization, so we have the new feature of SMIX for local currency. So when we have a big market, we do that. It's reducing the burden of the exchange rate or the 5-day rate and all this process, and also is matching more and more the process of the airline. And it's the same with SMI B2I, where the airline want to validate first the invoice before they do the payment, or they want to control when the payment is happening. Is all this evolution of the clearinghouse is to map the need of the airline, or because in the process of the clearinghouse and SIS, we don't change the way payment terms are agreed between parties. We just standardize them in a way that is automated. So that means that if you have 30 days payment terms, when a supplier is using the system, they are respecting this time of information. Is the case for future day submission. Even if you have 60 days payment terms, a supplier can send an invoice with a payment with the clearinghouse within 60 days. It's possible. So we don't interfere. So when you use the process, because sometimes people consider that paying through the clearinghouse is getting paying faster. No, the point is to say you can do. We are just here to enforce what you have agreed with your partner and to respect that. So when a supplier is sending an invoice with a due date, they are looking at what is the settlement date of the clearinghouse, and they are doing that in a way that is matching the payment terms. Sorry, I'm moving the slide. So here I have to click 2 times. I was instructed. So Nina, we can go to Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Bruno. We have one question. When settling a bilateral SIS invoice via SMII, can you choose the settlement? Can you choose the settlement currency? The settlement currency, or must it be settled in the currency the invoice was issued in? For example, billed in CHF, but normal settlement is in USD. But normal settlement is USD only.
Good question. So the feature of SML B2I could also include SMI B2X, meaning that the idea is when you have this kind of agreement, they are general agreement to say I can settle through the clearinghouse, and I'm participating to those agreement. So it could be SMI or SMIX in local currency. So the answer could be both. It depends what was agreed, because sometimes even if the contract is in CHF, the airline want to pay in USD, and sometimes the supplier, even if the settlement has to be in CHF, they are keen to get USD as a currency to pay some supplier. So that it's really what the people want to do. Is not here to define how people can work. The only thing is everything is set up according to the contract. So if you participate to SMIX, you will be eligible to do that, but the partner should be also member of SMIX of the same agreement to do that.
But thank you, Bruno. If there is any other question, you can always contact us via the IATA customer portal. And of course, you can also contact us via the portal, or if you need anything, just let us know. We will be closing our webinar from today by thanking Bruno, Nicola, and Simon for presenting this joint SIS and ICH webinar and the benefits of SIS and ICH. And we will send the presentation slides and the question and answers in a subsequent documentation. Stay tuned for that. And we invite you to also stay tuned for future webinars that we will be hosting. Thank you and have a great day ahead, and afternoon and evening.